Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It's so good to be back. It's so good to see everybody. How are you doing today? It has been a long time, huh? Long time no see, everyone. I missed you. How are you doing? How are you doing? I apologize for the extremely long gap between streams. I won't go too into it, but you guys all know, I've had a rough year this year for the old mental health, and I apologize for the long gap in streams. Pretty inexcusable. I will try and fix it in 2024, but it's great to be back. It kind of feels a little wild to be back, if I'm being honest with you, just because it's been so long. Can everyone let me know if you can hear me and see me fine? Just because the stream, it's been so long since I've done one of these, I want to make sure that something didn't get all jacked up, with my mic or anything in my time away. So let me know in chat if everything is good on your guys' end. And yeah, obviously, we've missed tons and tons of news over the last, I don't know, what's it been, like almost 2 months since I streamed, something like that. I don't know if it's been quite that long, but I think it's definitely been over a month. So clearly there's going to be a ton of stuff we can talk about because we've missed so much. A few of the top stories off of the bat, clearly the Game Awards happened. I think that was last week, right? Last Thursday. Been basically a full week since they took place. Tons of news came out of that. Tons of game announcements, award winners, lots of controversy around, devs, how long they got to accept award speeches, all of that kind of stuff. We can talk about the Game Awards if you want. NPD came out. I'll go over that really quick here in just a minute. So we can talk about the NPD results for November if you guys want to. The big hitting, most recent news that literally just happened was that the Last of Us multiplayer game has been canceled. Tons of debate around that. Was it the right decision? Was it the wrong decision? What's going on with Naughty Dog? What's going on with Sony and their games as a service push? We can talk about all of that if you guys want to, and really anything that you guys want. This show is 100% driven by you, your comments, your questions. We just talk about the latest news in the video game industry. I'm not going to even go into my spiel about super chats and channel memberships because frankly, I don't deserve to go into that stuff considering how long it's been since I've streamed. So I don't even want to go into that. If you guys want to be a channel member, go for it. If you want to do a super chat, go for it. But we're going to really quickly move past that. We're going to do some polls today. I love the polls. You guys seem to enjoy the polls. And we're going to go into whatever you guys want in the video game industry and so much more. So I did mention off the top, I'd give you the NPD. Well, it's Circana now. But I did mention that I would go over the highlights of what happened in November. And let's kick things off, first of all, with hardware, which frankly was a fairly disastrous result. Not the sort of thing that you want to be seeing heading into the holiday, spending and gifting season. So hardware dropped by 24%. That is absolutely insane. Right now, that was in revenue, that wasn't in units, but still, and we know there was some discounting and stuff going on, during November on both the Xbox and the PlayStation 5. But you would hope that with discounting, that would be offset in an increase in unit sales. And we saw overall for the market a 24% drop in hardware. That is just rough, man. That is very, very, very rough. Hopefully, we don't see this sort of thing repeated in December as well. Hopefully, we have a much better December than we had in November for the consoles. So pretty steep decline there in terms of rankings and everything like that. In units, PS5 was number 1, Xbox Series number 2, and Nintendo Switch came in at number 3. That was the same case in revenue, right? So revenue and units. Sometimes we don't quite see the same placements in terms of units and revenue because obviously Switch, is much cheaper than PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. We've seen months where, Switch was actually second in units, but it was third in revenue. So, but in this case, it was all the same: PS5, Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch. And one thing that we found out is all consoles were declined by 20% at least in November, which is just wow. That is, like I said, shocking and not the sort of thing that you want to see heading into the holiday season. In terms of software, not a shocker at all. What was number one? Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. That's like the easiest thing to predict of all time. If Call of Duty launch month, it's going to be Call of Duty at number one. Number two, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Nice hold there for Spider-Man, staying in the top two for the month. It launched, the month prior, so good to see that at number two. Hogwarts Legacy still just absolutely beasting. Number three for the month, and that was, of course, boosted by the launch of the Switch version. But in general, Hogwarts Legacy has maybe been arguably the most impressive sales result for any game in 2023. We've seen a lot of cool results. We've seen some games do super, super great. But honestly speaking, I think Hogwarts Legacy is probably the biggest story of the year, strictly in terms of sales. I think it's the most impressive sales result for any game this year. Number 4 is Madden 24. Number 5, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Nice to see Mario Wonder still holding into that top 5. EA Sports FC 24 at number 6. Super Mario RPG debuts at number 7. Number 8 is Mortal Kombat 1. Number 9 is NBA 2K24. Number 10, UFC 5. Number 11, Assassin's Creed Mirage. Pretty decent drop for Assassin's Creed, if I'm being honest. It was number 3 launch month, and it dropped to number 11. Not a disastrous drop at all. November, you're seeing a lot of these other games do really, really big, sales numbers. Call of Duty, obviously, Hogwarts Legacy, Spider-Man. So it's not a disastrous drop, but it's a pretty steep drop going from number 3 to number 11. Number 12, we've got Naruto. Number 13, Sonic Superstars. Number 14, Jedi Survivor. Number 15, God of War Ragnarok. Number 16, NHL 24. Number 17, Star Ocean. 18, Spider-Man Miles Morales. 19, Minecraft. And number 20, Just Dance. In terms of the year-to-date, I'm not going to read the entire year-to-date, but one thing that is really impressive about the year-to-date, typically Call of Duty comes out, you just assume every single year Call of Duty is going to hit number 1. It's going to be the best-selling game of the year. It basically is every year, year in, year out. But it has not passed Hogwarts Legacy with its launch month sales. And I'm being honest, I think there's a very good chance Hogwarts Legacy is going to finish the year at number 1. Obviously, it had many more months on the market compared to Call of Duty to, rack those sales numbers up, but still incredible because that basically never happens, even with games that are launched way before Call of Duty. Call of Duty always comes in, turbo rockets into number 1 for the year, and it's looking very likely that Hogwarts Legacy is going to hold number 1 for the year. So like I said, in my opinion, most impressive sales result that we've seen this year is Hogwarts Legacy. All right, guys, that's it for the NPD, just highlights off of the top. I'm sure we're going to get into way more, detail as we go through the chat. We're going to stream for, a little over an hour today. Thank you for everyone that has shown up. I'm not expecting a big turnout today in terms of viewership because it's been so long since I've streamed. Probably most people have no idea I'm even live right now. They've probably given up on getting any more Benji streams because I was gone for so long. So I'm not expecting anything crazy in viewership, but thank you everyone that has turned out already. I already feel better just being back. I really do. It's kind of crazy. All right, let's get into some super chats that are in here off of the top. First of all, Split End 89 saying Benji in the chat. Good to see you, Split. Great friend of mine. Helps mod the channel. Does amazing work at Gaming Trend. Just an amazing person in general. Great to see you, Split End, buddy. We got Johnny G22 coming in here with a $9.99 super chat. That's incredibly kind of you, Johnny G. Thank you so much. Saying, hey, Benji, just wanted to wish you and the fam a Merry Christmas. Well, Merry Christmas to you too, Johnny G. I just had my first baby girl and excited to spend the holidays with her. Any advice on how you manage time to game with a child? Well, first of all, it's very kind for the super chat. Thank you, Johnny G. And congrats on your first baby girl. I also have a daughter. I can tell you being a girl dad is amazing. She's going to be awesome. My advice here is actually going to be pretty terrible. People all the time ask me this sort of stuff, because they see that I play a lot of games on PlayStation, on Xbox, on Switch, and they're always like, Benji, how do you do it while having a daughter and a job and everything? My answer to this is pretty depressing, and I don't recommend this for anyone else. I'm a very lonely person. I work nights. I don't really see my daughter. I see my daughter, usually maybe 2 days a week in general, the days that I'm off. The other 5 days of the week, I really don't see my daughter, and I don't really see anyone. I'm usually just by myself all the time. So that's one way that I get gaming time in, is that I'm a very lonely person. Again, I don't recommend that to anyone else to live that lifestyle. But whenever you work evenings, you're just alone a lot. So that would be my answer. I spend a lot of my time by myself. But congrats on having a daughter. I know you're going to be an amazing dad, Johnny G, and thank you for the support. Hebredis here with a 1999 super chat. That's extremely generous. Thank you. You don't ever have to give something that generous, but thank you so much, Hebredis. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. I apologize. Hello, Benji. Long-time lurker here. It's great to see you live again. It's great to be back. I can tell you that right now. I'm very, very happy I'm back. I hope you're still pulling through regardless of the many tribulations in life. You're in my prayers. Merry early Christmas if there's no show before then. Well, Merry Christmas to you too. That's our incredibly kind words. I always, I'm used to seeing so many of like the same names in chat, which is amazing, by the way. I love seeing people just come every week whenever we actually are doing these weekly. But it's always cool to see, not new members, but like lurkers. There's a lot of people that don't necessarily go into the chat that do watch these streams. And thank you so much for the super chat. Thanks for always watching. I apologize about my dog. He'll chill in a minute. And Merry Christmas to you too. I'm doing my best to pull through. I can tell you, I know I've said this sort of thing before, but now it's definitely true. Like the worst of it is without a doubt behind me. Now it's just like a matter of building myself back up. Ken B renewed the channel membership for 4 months. Thank you so much, Ken B. Saying, welcome back. What are your thoughts on the Game Awards as a show? 50 plus games shown, and I can only remember like 10 by show's end. Cut that back and let the winners talk. Okay. So my thoughts on the Game Awards as a show. I enjoy it. I enjoy it pretty much every year. I don't think it's a perfect show, and I do have a big criticism of the show. I said it on Twitter to Jeff, and I think it's the same biggest criticism that pretty much everyone has. They got to put some more focus on the awards. Like, I understand that the trailers and everything like that is what brings in the viewership. I understand the need to have, ads in the show because that's how you pay for this thing. Keep in mind, pretty much every award show has ads. If it's going to be on regular TV, right? If it's the Oscars or the Emmys, the channel's running ads during it, right? You go to commercial break. So, of course, there's going to be ads. Some people complain, oh, there should be no ads. It's like, guys, they do have to pay for the show. So the ads I'm pretty much okay with. Having trailers as part of this show I am also okay with. However, they should cut back in some areas, whether that's total amount of trailers, whether that is total amount of commercials, whatever, whether it's how long non-winners get to speak, right? That was another criticism you saw. A longer lead-in time for like a celebrity to say their spiel. They actually got to talk longer than the person that they were presenting their award to. At the end of the day, this is supposed to be an award show about celebrating the industry, and we really shouldn't be seeing people not even be able to give like minute-long speeches. I mean, that's no time. Like they should be given at least, I would say, 2 minutes, right? You don't want to see another situation, I love Christopher Judge, but you don't want to see another situation like that where the guy's going for like 8 or 9 minutes. Like, okay, we do need to wrap it up. Like, you definitely should get your moment, but you don't necessarily need to be taking up, that long because that is going to impact other people's amount of time. So, of course, there's a balance, right? You don't want to give the award winners unlimited time, but it was way too rushed. Also, way too many awards are just read out, including big ones. Like, why is Best Indie Game? You know how important that is for an indie dev to win an award like that? Like, they're competing in the AAA, with all these AAA games for attention. Being able to give those indie winners a chance to go on stage and talk about their game and get people aware of it, and best soundtrack and best RPG, like, these were just read out. They weren't accepted. That's just, it's over the line, right? I understand some of the stuff getting read out, like, no offense to esports, but I understand why esports is just kind of read out and given out. There's some other awards I can understand that for, but too many big awards are just being brushed over. Like, it's just like an almost non-moment thing. It's read with like 5 other awards. And then, the speech time this year was the worst I've ever seen in the entire history of the show. Sometimes you've seen it, this debate before, like, are people given enough time? This year it's basically unanimous. Like, everyone's like, yo, people were like being insta rushed off. Like, they had no time at all. So they have to improve that moving forward. They can't get rid of the trailers completely. They can't get rid of the commercials. That's what brings in the eyeballs. That's what brings in the pay for the show. But they have to strike a better balance. It was really egregious this year in particular. So that's my thoughts on it. Overall, I still did enjoy the show. I enjoy the show basically every year to varying degrees. There's some years I think are better than others. Still enjoyed the show, but they got to get a better balance of that. That was pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you. And thank you for renewing your channel membership, Ken B. That's very, very kind of you. Infinity Doc with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Infinity Doc. Great to see you. Very kind of you to give a super chat. Thoughts on the rumor from the AMD leaker about Xbox Next coming in 2026? Yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is fairly interesting. Let me make sure my mic and everything's still good. Yeah, it is. This is fairly interesting. So, a very reliable leaker, I believe it's Kepler. Is that what they go by on Twitter? Something like that. In general, they're very reliable, right? They've been, I think, one of the sources for PS5 Pro stuff. I think they've been some of the sources for like some of the Switch 2 stuff that's rumored. Also, AMD in general, they're a very reliable leaker. I'm not going to say they have a perfect track record. I don't know this person. I've never spoken to this person. I'm not someone that's like paying attention to everything they tweet or anything like that, but I do know that they are known as being reliable. And they stated, I think it was in September, these tweets resurfaced recently, but I believe it was back in September, that they were saying, and maybe there's something more recent, but they were saying that the next Xbox is coming much sooner than 2028, which was the year that we all assumed next gen's going to be, because that's kind of what Xbox and Sony both hinted at in the court case that was going on over Activision Blizzard King. The question of if I believe it's coming in 2026, that's soon, man. That's 3 years from now. Like not even really. It kind of depends because we're like already in 2024, kind of. It's probably less than 3 years if it's really coming in 2026. I don't know if I buy this, if I'm being honest with you. It seems awfully fast, and it seems awfully fast considering it feels like the current gen is finally kicking into gear. Whenever you see games like Alan Wake 2, what it looks like visually, games like Avatar, some of these trailers that we're seeing for these games coming up, it feels like this gen's finally kicking into gear. Not that there hasn't been great games before, but there was just so much cross-gen that it felt for a very long time like these consoles weren't really being taken advantage of. It finally feels like this gen's rolling. Xbox Series sales, let's just be honest, in terms of hardware, are not great, so it feels a little weird to rush out the next one instead of trying to build up the install base for the Xbox Series. Here's what I'd say. If there really is a next Xbox coming in 2026, I don't know if we can think of it as truly a new generation. Maybe it's going to be another console in the Series line, almost like the Pro is for the PlayStation 5 Pro, which we have tons of confirmation now is coming in 2024. I don't think it would be positioned strictly as a Pro. Maybe Microsoft could do something bizarre where they launch the next Xbox Series console and stop support on the S. So then the X becomes the baseline SKU, and whatever this next Series console is kind of replaces the X as the top end, and then the S just doesn't get support anymore after 2026. It's hard to say. It's weird to me. As of now, if the question is, do I truly believe that Microsoft's going to kick off a fully new generation, like as in like what we went from Xbox One to Xbox Series S and X in 26, I just don't buy it. I know that this leaker's reliable, but I think that that's probably not the case. And if there really is a new Xbox coming, that's kind of what I think it is. It's like a new Series console, and then, maybe in the most radical case, they end support for S, and then it's X and whatever this new console is getting the games. I don't know. That could be confusing for consumers. We'll just have to see. But it's pretty interesting, especially considering the source is pretty reliable. Highlander renewed their channel membership for 8 months. Holy cow, Highlander. It's great to see you, Highlander. It's been so long. We missed you and we're worried about you. Yeah, I had a lot of people tell me they were worried about me, which, it both makes me feel good to know that people care about me, but at the same time, it makes me feel bad because I don't want people to be worried about me, but it has been a hard year. Hope you have a great Merry Christmas. Do you think there may be a problem at SIE with developers? Oh, there's definitely problems at SIE, right? We just have to be honest about that. We have to be honest that there is issues at PlayStation. So, very first part, it's great to see you, Highlander. Thank you for becoming a channel member for 8 months. Merry Christmas to you, too. Is there an issue at Sony? Yeah, there is an issue at Sony. And the issue at Sony has to do with the same thing I warned everyone with Ubisoft, which played out to be correct, and that was the games as a service push. Now, we're already getting into the same spiel I do every chat. You guys know what I call it. The siren song of games as a service. It looks so attractive. That's why I call it the siren song. They all see the siren singing, right? What does siren song mean, right? Well, the siren has a beautiful call, right? It's a beautiful voice, and it draws you to the siren. And then, you know what? The siren pulls you under the waves, right? And that's the comparison I've always made to games as a service. And that's that, you know, all of these publishers and all of these developers see Fortnite out there making insane money. They see Apex making insane money. They see, you know, for a long time, Destiny, though that's becoming questionable now, making tons of money, etc., etc. And of course, whenever you see these games making all this money, you want to make all that money too, right? And the thing I've always cautioned all these developers and all these publishers about, like I always say, of course, you should be experimenting with games as a service, but you need to be very careful about how much resources you pour into it because it's so competitive, right? The market for games as a service, I say it all the time, it's far more competitive than single player. Even if there's a lot of non-games as a service games coming out, the competition's not as fierce. It's just flat out not, because how are you going to pull someone off of Fortnite? How are you going to pull someone off of Destiny, though it seems like Bungie's kind of doing that to their own community? How do you do that to Apex, etc., etc.? People get Call of Duty. People get locked into these multiplayer games, and they don't leave them for many, many years. Now, it seems that Sony went for a very, very aggressive games as a service push, and I've always had the opinion that you should do some games as a service. You saw some people saying Sony shouldn't do any games as a service. They should only focus on single-player games. Well, that's not accurate. You do need to try and make some games as a service. The problem is it appears Sony pivoted extremely hard, which was the same thing Ubisoft did, which bit them in the butt extremely hard for years. Ubisoft's still trying to recover from that big push they did. People underestimate how many resources it takes to support a live service game. Whenever I sent out the tweet about the Last of Us multiplayer game, I had a lot of people in the comments being like, you can do both. You can do single player and multiplayer, right? You should be able to balance both of these. They should still be able to do factions as a live service and make The Last of Us. Like, guys, you're very much underestimating how much development resources goes into a live service game. Not just a multiplayer mode, because I agree with you on that. I think that you should be able to make just standard multiplayer modes, non-live service, just maybe getting new maps every once in a while, maybe getting whatever you want to do, a standard multiplayer as we used to think of it. You probably can do something like that in single player side by side simultaneously, but making a full-on service game, it takes hundreds of people, literally, for years and years and years and years to do that. And one counter argument I saw, which is unfortunately just not true, was I saw people in my comments also being like, well, 343 did it. No, they didn't. And I love Halo Infinite. I actually think that that's an amazing playing game, but that is just not accurate. 343 released Halo Infinite, and the most criticized portion of that game for like 2 years was its live service component. Like, people just absolutely dragged Halo for its post-launch support. Hey, 343 did not balance a single-player game and a live service game. In fact, they laid off a ton of their single-player staff, and then they did finally, it feels like, get into a good place with Halo Infinite in terms of a live service, but that took years. Like, people are drastically underestimating how much you have to pour into live service. So with Sony trying to do so many of these, right, buying studios for it, having their traditionally single-player studios like Naughty Dog, and it seems like maybe Insomniac and others start to pivot to these live services, that is a massive, massive challenge. So there was rumblings for a long time that developers within Sony were not happy about this pivot. And at the end of the day, I'm sure we're going to get more into the Last of Us stuff. I think that Naughty Dog, at the end of the day, made the right decision. If it truly was, and I don't know, I don't work at Naughty Dog, but if they were truly in a position where Naughty Dog had to make the choice, listen, if we really launch this, game as it's currently being developed, And it's really going to take hundreds of us doing this for many, many years to come, which is going to pull resources away from our single player games that we're known for. I think at the end of the day, it was the right call to cut it. Now, it still sucks, right? I'm not saying this is a good thing. It's still a game that had years of development resources poured into it. It's still a game that, you know, who knows how that already impacted their single player development pipeline, because I'm sure it wasn't a small amount of people working on this. And at the end of the day, I'd love to play a multiplayer The Last of Us game. So it's not like this is like good news. I wouldn't frame this as, yeah, this is happy joy. We're all super happy about it. But at the end of the day, do I think it was the right decision? More than likely, yes. More than likely, it probably was. Yeah. And that's going to be, you guys know my opinion on games as a service. I think people need to be very careful in how they, you know, develop these games. All right. Guancos has been a member for 6 months. Thank you so much, Guancos. Thank you for renewing the channel membership. Let's run our first poll. Let's run our first poll. And let's just say, was canceling The Last of Us multiplayer? I'm sorry about my dog today. He's very yappy. The right decision. I really apologize about that. It's because my neighbors are like doing some stuff outside. Simple yes or no. Was canceling The Last of Us multiplayer the right decision? Yes? No. Wow, I really apologize. I might have to like go put him in another room. So we may have to go on pause for a second. If I'll give him another minute, but if this keeps going the whole chat, I'm going to have to put him in another room. Okay. And then Guancos with the 6-month renewal question. Which new franchises were born this year? Which franchises died? What made the leap to the next level? Okay. Born this year? Interesting. That's actually a very good question. You know, this was a year that was really heavily sequels focused, right? We didn't see tons of new IPs. In fact, that was one of the kind of criticisms for the Game of the Year nominations, was that it was so much, you know, sequels. Here, give me a second. I'm gonna let him in another room. Give me just a second. I'll be right back, guys. I apologize. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Apologies. I let him outside because it's super sunny and beautiful out, so he can run around and have fun outside. Sorry about interrupting the stream. Okay, so which new franchises were born? You know, for one, I will say Starfield. There's some debate about how Starfield has performed overall. But I'm assuming you're going to get a Starfield sequel. Like, it'll be many, many years, right? They're going to do, of course, a Fallout game before that, I'm sure. They're going to do Elder Scrolls 6, as we already know, before that. But I'm sure one day there will be another Starfield. So that's one we can say. Like, I'd be shocked if they never make another Starfield game. I wouldn't be shocked if you saw another Sea of Stars game, right? The indie title. I think that won indie game of the year. I could totally see. Now, I haven't played Sea of Stars, so I'm not sure like how it ends or anything. But like, they could always pull like, if it has like a definitive ending, they could always pull a Final Fantasy, right, and call a Sea of Stars 2 with a new story or whatever. I wouldn't be shocked if you saw something like that. But yeah, there wasn't a ton of new IP this year. It was really, really sequels heavy. I'm sure I'm forgetting some. Which franchises died? I mean, some stuff at Embracer. Hate to say it, but Embracer's out there like, axing studios left and right. Saints Row, right? Did Saints Row launch this year or was that last year? That might have been last year, actually. That wasn't it? Saints Row was last year. I'm like 90% sure. Yeah, that was last year. I'm not 100% sure on games that died this year. I mean, I'm sure there are some that Giga bombed, but I can't really think of too much. What franchise made the leap to the next level? Well, this one's very obvious. Baldur's Gate, right? Baldur's Gate 3. That went to another level. Not that Baldur's Gate hasn't been successful before, but Baldur's Gate 3 took that to a whole different level. Whenever Baldur's Gate 4 inevitably happens, I'm sure it'll be many years away, but whenever they inevitably make Baldur's Gate 4, like the hype for that will be far beyond what anything with the hype for Baldur's Gate 3 was pre-launch. Not that that game didn't have anticipation, but Baldur's Gate 4's anticipation will be like a whole different level than what we saw with Baldur's Gate 3. So that is the obvious standout. Franchises that were born this year, you could kind of say Hogwarts Legacy, and you could also use that for a franchise that made the leap. Obviously, Harry Potter has existed before, so it's not really a new IP. So this is more of like a nebulous one. It sort of counts because it is a brand new look at Harry Potter. There's never been a Harry Potter game quite like that. So whether you want to call it a new franchise or not, debatable. If you want to call it which franchise made it a leap, it's definitely this. No Harry Potter game ever has sold like Hogwarts Legacy has. Not even remotely close. So whether it falls into the first part, it's a little weird, but I would say probably not because it technically is using an established IP. But what made a leap for that franchise is 100%. Those are my top two. It's going to be Baldur's Gate 3 and Hogwarts Legacy. I mean, those both took their IP to a whole different level in gaming than they were before. Benji here with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Benji. Great to see you. And Benji's saying, Benji, so good to see you again. You made my day. Oh, that's very kind of you. It's great to see you too, Benji. It's been too long. I'm very, very sorry. Great to see you, buddy. And thanks as always for the support. You've always been one of the most supportful people in chat, Benji, all the way like back from the beginning. And then Benji had another super chat at 10. Oh my goodness. Benji, US hardware sales are significantly down. Yeah, it's alarming. That was expected for the Switch, but PS5 and Xbox Series decline is concerning when this should near peak of this gen. More decline coming in 2024. Yeah, the hardware, like, there's just no way to spin it. It's alarming. It's very alarming. As you said, Switch is expected. Switch is at the very end of its life cycle. Now, obviously, it's going to still get support after Switch 2 launches. They're still going to probably make Switch, I would say, for, a couple more years. I don't think they're going to insta-kill Switch 1 in terms of hardware shipments once Switch 2 launches. Probably because Switch 2 will be, in my opinion, $100 more. I think they're going to launch Switch 2 at $399, so they'll want a cheaper option on the market. But it's at the end, right? It's at the end of its like big, this is the current console for Nintendo. So I think we mostly all expected to see big declines for the Switch. But seeing PS5 and Xbox Series decline, very alarming, especially to this degree. Whenever, like you said, these are traditionally the prime years where we should see these consoles hitting their peaks, or if not peaks, close to peaks. And instead we're seeing a decline. Not what you want to see. Not what you want to see at all in the US. Let's take a look at what happens in December. I don't want to go full doom and gloom yet, but we're like close to doom and gloom. Not for the whole gen, but for like how this holiday season is going to shake out. We're like right on that line of like doom. Hopefully we have a much better December. More declines coming in 2024. I think 2024 is probably going to be a very difficult year for hardware. Yeah. Except for Switch 2. Switch 2 will have an explosive launch. I mean, absolutely out of control hardware sales you can expect for Switch 2. That's not a shock to anyone. But that will massively elevate the hardware performance, Switch specifically. But PlayStation and Xbox could see some potential issues this year. PlayStation, as of now, doesn't appear to have much in terms of big first-party games. Now, we don't know that for a fact. And in terms of exclusives, that's a different story, right? They've got stuff like Rise of the Ronin. They've got stuff like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which I suspect will have some impact in Japan. I don't know if it's going to make the console all of a sudden sell a bajillion units in Japan, but I'm sure they'll get a hardware boost in Japan, launch month from Rebirth. So it's not that Sony has like no exclusives next year, but in terms of like the big first party, hardware pushers like the Spider-Mans, the God of Wars, the Horizons, they, as of now, and this could change. We don't know Sony's roadmap for next year, but as of now, it's looking like not a big year for Sony first party. Then you look at Xbox, and Xbox definitely has some good releases next year. I think Hellblade 2 is looking awesome. That last trailer was incredible. Flight Sims, I'm sure going to be great because the last Flight Sim was great. You got Avowed, which is a new Obsidian RPG, which is super cool, and some other stuff. So it's not like Xbox doesn't have any games next year. They have some very cool looking games, but I don't see a lot on that Xbox roadmap for next year that looks like serious hardware movers, right? I don't know how many Xboxes specifically like Hellblade's going to sell. I don't know how many Xboxes Flight Sim is going to sell. And in terms of third party, again, we have some pretty cool looking stuff, but we don't necessarily have ones that look like massive hardware movers. I was talking about this in my small Discord. It's kind of funny because even though 2025 is further away, 2025 as of now actually looks like it has more hardware moving games than 2024 does. You got Grand Theft Auto 6 hitting in 2025, which I'm sure is going to move hardware units. You've got Monster Hunter Wilds, which I'm sure is going to move hardware units, particularly in Japan, right? We saw how big Monster Hunter World was in Japan. I don't know if Wilds will be as big as World or not in Japan, but it's definitely going to move some PS5s when it launches. I have no question about that. So it's funny. 2025 is further away, and yet it looks like it's already has more games that can move hardware than 2024 does. So 2024, I'll be honest, I'm not super bullish on hardware performance outside of Switch 2, whichever month that launches. I don't know if it'll be like end of the world scenarios. This could all change if Sony sneaks in here and all of a sudden Wolverine's next year or some other huge, first party game comes in. But yeah, as of now, 2024 doesn't look like maybe a spectacular year for hardware. Mr. Real Shane with a 2 super chat. No question or comment, just happy you are back for a live. Thank you so much, Mr. Real Shane. It's great to see you. I'm very happy to be back. I'm very much happy to be back. Kellegrim with a 10 super chat. Great to see you, Kellegrim. How you doing, buddy? Sup, Benji? Super glad to see you back, buddy. And that's very generous, man. You don't gotta drop a 10. The wife and I saw the Monster Hunter Wilds trailer. Not sure how well Exoprimal did, but if Monster Hunter Wilds does well, do we see another good year for Capcom? Oh yeah, Wilds is going to be colossal. Now, unfortunately, that's not until 2025. That's the bad news. A lot of us, we're thinking probably Monster Hunter next year. It is 2025. This is essentially the sequel to Worlds. They're not calling it Worlds, but it's the next big, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, Monster Hunter game. It's clearly going for that Monster Hunter Worlds audience. It will be giga gargantuan. There's just not a doubt in my mind. Absolutely colossal. Like I said, this is going to move a lot of PS5s in Japan. As of now, we don't know that it's coming to Switch 2 or not, which makes sense because Switch 2 isn't even announced. Theoretically, this could launch on Switch 2 as well, right? They wouldn't announce that if it's coming to that because that platform's not even announced. So then that would boost Switch 2 sales in Japan too. So, this game is going to be huge. There's no doubt about it. Exoprimal seems like it did not do well in sales at all. It did get some decent player engagement on Game Pass when it first dropped, but that seems to have fallen off as well. So I would not categorize Exoprimal as a success from what we've seen. Maybe Capcom comes out here and corrects me and, at some point says, we see Exoprimal as this huge success, but it doesn't look like it. But Monster Hunter Wilds will be giant. Yeah. Gigantic. Arguably, it should be expected to be one of their biggest games of all time. Will it outsell Monster Hunter Worlds? Hard to say, right? We don't even know the quality of Wilds yet. The game's not even out. But will it be one of the best-selling games in the history of Capcom? No question about it. And who knows? Maybe even the best. Joseki has renewed their channel membership for 7 months. Thank you so much, Joseki. Great to see you, bud. The original sin was greenlighting a project, not realizing they needed an entire team to maintain it. Poor management. Yeah, again, I don't work, and this is in regards to The Last of Us. My only thing with this in terms of poor management is we don't know if they were kind of forced to do this from Sony. I don't know that they were, so I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying we know that Sony went for a serious games as a service push. I will say, here's what I'll say, Joseki. If it was truly Naughty Dog's decision to say, we're going to make a full-on live service game, we're going to full-on, like, we're doing that ourselves. It's not like Sony being like, guys, we need you to make a live service and we want it to be in the Last of Us universe. If it was just Naughty Dog being like, yo, not a multiplayer mode, we're going to spin this off into a full-on live service and all that sort of stuff, I would actually totally agree, very poor decision to do that without knowing beforehand how much resources it's going to take. It could be a sign of Naughty Dog just not understanding how live service really works, which kind of makes sense because a ton of people at Naughty Dog probably have spent most of their career just making single-player games, right? So it could be more of a naivety thing, right? You don't think it's going to take as many resources as it actually does. No matter what, clearly at the end of the day, this was not the right decision. Whether that came from Sony, whether that came from Naughty Dog themselves, whatever decision was made, clearly, put it this way, anytime a game is getting canceled after years in development, tons of resources poured into it, that means someone somewhere made a bad call, right? Someone somewhere, regardless of who it was, I don't want to be super judgmental, I don't run these companies, I don't work there, but someone somewhere made a very poor decision. There's just no way around that. So yeah, there's no doubt this hurt Naughty Dog bad, right? There's no doubt about it. And the thing that's not really helping Naughty Dog, I love Naughty Dog, but the thing that's not helping them is at the same time as they're like canceling games, not getting new games out, they're getting things like The Last of Us Part 1, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, which I'm not against those projects existing, but I'm saying the optics of, hey, you're re-releasing games and then you're canceling games and not getting new games out, it's just very bad optics. And I'm sure Naughty Dog themselves are aware it's not great optics to have. So, it was somewhere along the way a poor decision was made. Here's what I'll say. I hope that at some point, The Last of Us Part 3, come on, I think we all know that that's going to get made. Hopefully they have a factions multiplayer mode attached to that, and they don't go for full-on live service. Because one thing that I've seen from a lot of the factions fans is them saying we never wanted live service. We just wanted a sequel to factions, like a sequel to that multiplayer mode. So hopefully they can still deliver a multiplayer mode later on down the line. They can way rein it back from what they were trying to do before. And hopefully that makes people happy, but we'll have to see. But Joseki, for sure, someone somewhere along the lines made a bad decision call there. Don't worry, I'm going to hit free questions and stuff. I'm still going to go for quite a while still. There's just been so many super chats in chat, which is insane. You guys really don't need to be doing that, especially with how far or how long I was gone. But I really appreciate it. Split at 89 hitting a $25 super. Dude, Split, that is way too generous, my friend. Way too generous. Thank you so much, Split M, but that's way too generous. Saying, Merry Christmas, buddy. Don't think you've had a live chat since Alan Wake 2. Such a fantastic game. Can't wait to get to the final draft and DLC. Glad it's flowers at TGAs. Yeah, sure. Let's talk about Alan Wake 2, both in terms of sales and both in terms of reception. So, first of all, obviously, it's my game of the year. That's no shock. You guys all know I'm biased when it comes to Remedy and Alan Wake in particular. I make that very clear, very open. Some people try and hide their biases. I straight tell you. Take everything I say about Remedy and everything I say about Alan Wake and Control with a grain of salt, because I'll just be completely frank. I am biased towards both Remedy and Alan Wake and Control because those two games are some of my favorite games of all time, and Remedy is maybe my favorite studio in the world, definitely in the top 2 or 3 studios in the world for me, maybe even number 1. So take everything I say about all of this with a massive pinch of salt. That being said, Alan Wake 2, my game of the year, easily. Nothing actually is even close to it for game of the year. Completely fantastic. I'm so happy to see all the wins they got at the Game Awards. I had said, I think it was in my Discord, that the 2 that I felt like they deserved to win the most, like the ones, once all the nominations came out, I always knew it wasn't going to get Game of the Year. Like I always knew that was going to go to Baldur's Gate 3. But I was like, the two that they deserve, like, like, I don't know if they're going to get it, but these are the ones they absolutely should win, was Best Direction and Best Narrative. And I was happy to see them get those two. The Best Art is just kind of like a bonus on top of it, but they truly deserved Best Direction and Best Narrative. Like, they deserved those awards, and I'm very glad that they got those two, because those are the two they truly deserved. Game of the Year, that's a huge up for debate, right? It's my Game of the Year. I completely understand it not being other people's Game of the Year. This was an incredible year. You had games like, Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate, Spider-Man 2. Like, there were so many games. But they deserved those two, and they got those two. So that makes me happy. There's a huge debate around how Alan Wake 2 is selling. And the one thing I want to say is there is no sales data out there. Now, do I think Alan Wake 2 is a huge commercial success that's selling millions and millions of units? No, I don't. I'm also seeing some people say, though, that Alan Wake 2 is a colossal bomb. There's no true evidence that Alan Wake 2 is a colossal bomb. Now, one of the debates that you're seeing a lot is Matt Piscatella and Circana's player engagement tracking. Now, I don't know how they get their player engagement tracking. It could be that that's 100% correct. It could be that that's 100% accurate. What I do know is that Epic does not provide data to Circana/NPD. They don't provide them numbers for anything, as far as I'm aware. I know they're not in the digital leader panel. Maybe there's some other thing that they are giving Circana and NPD. But we don't really know, I believe, how those player engagement charts are generated. That's not me telling you that those charts are wrong. That's not me telling you those charts are right. I just don't know. Some people have theorized they're getting that information directly from Sony themselves. I find that highly doubtful that Sony would just freely give out for their entire platform player numbers, but I could be wrong on that. If so, it would be a surprising move from a platform holder, but maybe they're doing that. I'm more inclined to believe this is mostly algorithms based, but again, I could be wrong on that. And then I saw another estimate out there that it's sold about 850,000 on console. I could see that being close to right. With PC, that would put it at about 1 million. Keep in mind, Remedy games are not games ever that have been colossal sellers out of the gate. I would say if it's true that Alan Wake 2 is 1 million plus right now, that's actually not as disastrous of a result as a lot of people think it is, because Remedy games don't sell fast and they don't sell huge volumes. I talked about this before. Remedy sees Control as a huge success. They see Control as such a huge success that they're making a sequel to it with a higher budget. And Control, last I checked, has only sold 3 million lifetime. And that game came out in 2018. So in like 5 years, it sold 3 million copies. You have to keep in mind, you can't judge a Remedy game like how you're going to judge Spider-Man 2. Alan Wake 2 is the kind of game that more than likely, if it can sell 3 million lifetime, is going to be seen as a huge success by Remedy. So we'll have to see. There's no actual sales data out there yet. Epic's never provided a number. Remedy's never provided a number. Remedy's usually pretty good at giving financial information whenever they do their quarterly earnings reports. Not necessarily always in units, but they'll comment a lot of times on like profitability and things like that on games. So we'll probably have a pretty good idea. Let's say Epic or Remedy never give us an exact sales number. We'll probably get a decent idea on how it's performing on their expectations whenever they do their quarterly earnings report early next year. So we'll definitely know at least something by then. Alan Wake 2 could be bombing. It's no matter what, not out there selling 5 million copies. But I would say if this does 1 million plus by the end of the year, it's probably in a pretty good spot for a Remedy game. But we'll have to see. Hamishly Ford has upped their channel membership for 8 months. What is up, Hamish? Thank you so much. Hey, Benji. Missed you, brother. Missed you too, Hamish. Hope you are doing better now. Mental health is one hell of a thing. Oh, you're telling me, man. I suffered a lot during COVID. Merry Christmas. Well, thanks for re-upping that channel membership, Hamish. It's great to see you. And yeah, mental health's no joke, man. It's no friggin' joke. This year has been something, man. It's either the first or second worst year of my life. It's hard to say because I've had 2 horrific years in regards to mental health. But this is either number 1 or number 2 in terms of all-time bad. Maybe number 1. It's pretty close. Kellegrim with a 20. Dude, Kellegrim, what the heck? And I think you dropped a 10 earlier, brother. You do not have to do this, my man. But that's very generous. Kellegrim, last super chat before I got to bounce for work. That trailer for the Fallout show looks sweet. It does, surprisingly good. You excited for it? And are video game shows / movies going to replace superhero movies / shows in popularity? I actually kind of think so. So first of all, yeah, the trailer looked awesome. It looked way better than I expected. I don't know why, but I went into the Fallout show with like zero expectations. And I'm not sure why that is. Like, whenever we were going into the Last of Us series on HBO, like, I just had high expectations for it because, I mean, I knew Craig Mazin was making it. I knew Neil Druckmann was involved. It's freaking HBO. So, like, I went into that just expecting it to be awesome, to be honest with you. Even with the troubled, you know, history of video game live action adaptations. I had a feeling that was going to be amazing, and of course it was. But for the Fallout show, it's not that I like assumed it was going to be bad. I just didn't really have expectations for it. I was just like, we'll see what this is like. I thought the trailer was great. I really was impressed by the trailer. It looked way better than I was expecting. I think it looks awesome. The production values look amazing. I feel like the vibe was fantastic. The early teases that we're getting towards like the acting and the writing seems great. Looks awesome, dude. I am pleasantly surprised by the trailer. It looks fantastic. Do I think that we might be seeing video games replace superheroes? Yeah, I actually do think that we're kind of getting to that. And it's not a coincidence you're seeing all of these film studios and streaming platforms try and rapidly acquire gaming rights, right? You're seeing God of War shows supposedly coming, Horizon shows coming. You already saw an Uncharted movie. You already saw The Last of Us. You're seeing Fallouts. There's a Gears of War movie coming to Netflix. There's a BioShock movie in development. Like, clearly Hollywood sees video games as the next big thing to mine. The key, though, is if they're going to truly become popular for a long period of time and not just a flash in the pan, they have to make them good. For so long, Hollywood has been utterly terrible at adapting video games. And part of it is because a lot of times the creatives from video games were not involved, or at least not in a big way, right? Part of why The Last of Us worked so well is that Neil was so involved with it. I'm not giving all of the credit to Neil. Craig Mazin also did an amazing job, and so did the actors and HBO. But it's not a coincidence that it did super well and Neil was so heavily involved. Now, it doesn't always mean the creator's going to make a good thing, right? But I think it is very important to have, like, you know, on this God of War game, Corey needs to be super involved in that. On Gears of War, we already know that the Coalition's super involved with that. We know with this new Death Stranding movie that A24 is making, Kojima's super involved with that. They've got to keep that up. So I would say as long as quality overall remains high, yeah, video games are about to become a very big thing in shows and movies. This is just a comment, but I'm scrolling and I just see Dano saying, love you, Benji. Yeah, I love you too back, man, Dano. Thank you so much. It's very, very kind of you. I'm sorry I was gone for so long. I always underestimate how many people really value these chats. A lot of times with my live chat, I feel a little weird about it because I'm like, it's just me rambling for an hour and a half. And I know it's interactive, like it's you guys too, but I'm like, do people really want to, like, you know, just listen to me talk for like an hour and a half? So I'm honestly self-conscious about it a lot of times because it's not like a podcast where there's a bunch of other people involved, like, you know, co-hosts and chatting. I'm always like, do people want to actually watch this? But you know, I hover right around 1,000 views per video, which, you know, isn't big for, you know, big time YouTubers. But then when you sit back and think about it, you're like, dude, that's 1,000 people. Like, if you put 1,000 people in a room, that's a lot of people. So I appreciate it. Bigelow with a 2. How do you feel about Insomniac all in on Marvel? This is a great question. I won't go too much into the leaks because there is unfortunately some stuff that's leaking from Insomniac because of hacks. But, you know, clearly there's more Marvel coming besides just Wolverine and Spider-Man 2. That's not a shock. We all expected another Spider-Man game, but it seems like there's potentially even more than that going on over there. Here's what I'll say. It'll be a shame if we don't see Insomniac ever do, you know, more Ratchet and Clank, more new IPs, things like that. At the same time, can I understand why this is happening? Sure. I mean, look at how much Spider-Man games have sold. All 3 of them. Right? It's not even just like a fluke, like a one-off. You know, Spider-Man 1 sold huge. Spider-Man Miles Morales sold huge. I mean, dude, I read out the Circana charts and, like, think about how long ago Miles Morales came out. It was still number 18 for the month, right? Like, these games have tremendous legs. They sell huge. Spider-Man 2 is sold huge. I'm assuming they believe that they can make Wolverine sell huge. So financially speaking, and probably even creatively, they're having a lot of fun working on this stuff. I can understand why it's happening. It will be a bummer, though, if we don't see Insomniac follow up with more Ratchet games, Ratchet and Clank, because I love those games. I thought Rift Apart was incredible. More new IPs, things like that. So hopefully they don't become just strictly a Marvel-only studio. I love the Spider-Man games. I'm really excited to see what they do with Wolverine. But we'll have to see. Financially speaking, I can completely understand why they're doing it, because there's just way more money involved with it. Split End gifted 5 memberships. That's very kind of you, Split End, dude. Thank you so much, man. Ice Queen Gaming got a gifted membership. Sembatu got a gifted membership. Chrono got a gifted membership. Dank Meme Center X got a gifted membership. And Justin Dorr got a gifted membership. Shout out to Split End gifting those memberships. You're the man, dude. You're awesome, Split End. You're the best. I love seeing the gifted memberships. All right, now let me hit channel member questions. I apologize. We're like an hour into this chat, and I've only been able to hit super chats because you guys' support's been so insane. All right, let's really quick end the first poll. I asked you guys, was canceling The Last of Us multiplayer the right decision? Most of you agree with me. 75% of you say yes, while 25% of you say no. At the end of the day, like I said, it's not like this is good news. I would not frame this as good news, but was it the right choice to make? I agree with the 75% of you who say yes. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it was probably the right call. I don't know. I haven't seen what state that game was in. I don't know how much resources, right? It's all with a grain of salt, but to me, it looks like the right decision, all things considered, which is still a bummer. It's still a ton of wasted resources and wasted time, so it's not like it's great news, but probably the right call. Sometimes the right decision's hard. All right. Channel member questions. Oh, my goodness. Sports Day is out of control. Joseki with channel member questions. Yo, Benji, first, the more important thing, love seeing you be back. Happy to be back, Joseki. I'm really going to try and commit in 2024 to be like way better about all of this. 2023 was really rough for me with consistency. I was all over the place. So very much 2024, going to try and be more consistent. I didn't see you posting for a while, and you got me worried. Keep fighting and keep being awesome. Well, thank you, Joseki. I'm doing my best. And you have to fight my backlog of questions too. 2024 predictions. I say we're finally seeing Switch 2 early next year, and we'll talk about it before the end of fiscal year investor meeting. 2, your thoughts at Xbox's horrid sales numbers this November and the rumors of an early next generation. Well, we got to the early next gen part. To me, if confirmed, shows that Microsoft once again given up on a console generation. But their problem, in my opinion, isn't hardware, it's software and management. They had Forza and Starfield to score an open goal, and yet it feels like yet another wasted chance. Forza launched messy, and Starfield opened big, but the discourse around really turned negative after launch. Thoughts on this? Lastly, PS5 isn't hitting 25 million, I'm afraid, and I really think the peak year was this year. Okay, that is a backlog of questions, Joseki, but they're all like really good questions, so I'm going to get to them all. Besides some stuff we did, and I'm going to go wrap it. I'm still streaming for about 20-30 minutes or so. So I'm going to try and hit all the channel members' questions too. We'll see what happens with free questions. I apologize, but like the support was crazy today. Okay. 2024 predictions. What are my big predictions for next year? Definitely, I agree with you. Actually, I'll do the first prediction, which is exactly what you say, that Nintendo's going to talk about Switch 2 before their fiscal year ends. I agree with that. I do think so. I think we're going to see it early next year, pretty early. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to launch early next year, and I don't think Joseki's saying that either. We're just saying some sort of reveal, some sort of announcement, something. I agree with that completely. So early next year for Switch 2, reveal of some sort. Some other big predictions. I'll predict Sony has some sort of big first-party AAA game that's not confirmed for next year. It seems shocking to me they'd go a whole year without something really big. Maybe that is Wolverine. But But I will predict they've got to have something big. They've got to. I mean, it would be crazy to go a whole year for PlayStation without a big AAA game. So I'll go with that. Another prediction for Switch 2, I'll predict Metroid Prime 4 is a launch title or launch window, in that first couple months. Metroid Prime 4 launch window title, which isn't a hot take, but it's just a prediction. And I'll also make a more bold prediction because it all depends on how much they can manufacture. But my final prediction will also be Switch 2 related because I just have a feeling Switch is going to be the most exciting thing next year, to be honest. I'll predict that Switch 2 has the biggest launch month sales of all time in the United States for a console. That's what I'll predict, which might not sound too shocking after how successful Switch 1 was, but it's a little bit of a bold prediction because it all depends on if they can make enough. It's not really about demand for Switch 2, it's about manufacturing. But I'm going to predict they can manufacture enough, and I'll predict Switch 2 has the biggest launch month sales of any console ever. In the US. I don't know about globally, but in the US. My thoughts on Xbox is really bad November because it just is. It's very bad. Yeah, Xbox isn't in a great position right now with hardware sales. That's just the truth. There was a time I was pretty bullish about Xbox Series, and that shouldn't be surprising because the data panned out. They had a ton of momentum early in this generation. Those first couple of years, you saw it being the fastest selling Xbox ever. You saw tons of excitement around Game Pass. And as a company, right, as a gaming brand, Xbox isn't in a bad place. In fact, they're posting some really record numbers in terms of revenue. They're posting some huge engagement numbers, things like that. But if we're talking specifically hardware, which is only one part of their business now, as we know, right? Microsoft is way positioned. Microsoft and Xbox gaming is something far beyond just console. But if we're only talking about console hardware sales, there's just no debate around it. The Xbox Series is doing pretty poorly, and it's been doing pretty poorly for a while now. What they can do to fix that, I'm not entirely sure. That's going to be a job for Phil and Sarah Bond. Yeah, it's not great. They haven't been in a great spot with hardware sales for quite some time now, which is a bit disappointing to see after how much early momentum Xbox Series had. I will say if they really are launching a new console generation in 2026, that is shocking to me, as we discussed earlier. So we'll have to see. And then, yes, I agree with you. PS5 is not hitting 25 million. Nope. Now, whether this year was the peak year for PS5, I don't know. I'm questioning if 2024 will match 2023, but I think there's a real chance 2025 is the peak year, which I know sounds weird because it's 5 years into the generation, but that combo of GTA 6 and Monster Hunter Wilds in the same year, I don't know. Especially if Monster Hunter Wilds isn't launching on Switch 2 at launch, because I think that will impact Japan. I think they'll sell a lot of PS5s. So I will say I do agree 2024 probably doesn't match 2023 for PS5, but there is a slim chance that 2025 could be the peak, which sounds weird, but it would be the combo of GTA 6 and Monster Hunter to me. Guanco's channel member question. Welcome back. We really appreciate your insight. Benji's brain, please stop being mean to him. He is very nice. Well, I appreciate that. That's very kind of you, Guancos. Yeah, sometimes your own mind is your greatest enemy, right? Ross Wilson, channel member. Hey, Benji, glad to have you back. Always look forward to these. Thank you so much, Ross. I really appreciate that. It's a very kind comment. Telegram, I didn't know a new Time Splitters was being worked on. Guess it got canceled. Yes, because they closed the studio, unfortunately. A lot of issues going on over there at Embracer. It's really sad to see. It's impacted so many people. Okay, there wasn't actually tons of channel member questions. So I actually will be able to hit some free ones. I was a little worried. I was like, it's looking sketch on getting free questions. Okay, Benji, had a channel member question, and then I think I can go to free questions. Benji, Hogwarts Legacy sales on Switch are very impressive. They are. I mean, top 3 in November. Woo! That's good. That's good. For a late version of the game. Obviously, some of those sales were also on PlayStation and Xbox, but clearly Switch would have been the driver of that. So yeah, Hogwarts Legacy's just been an absolute monster all year, man. EA Sports FC sales are strong too on the system. Is this a sign Switch 2 will get significant third-party support? Could even GTA 6 happen? Benji, I think that Switch 2's third-party support will be vastly superior to Switch 1's. Yeah, I really think so. You had a combo of the Switch 1 being just like kind of horrifically underpowered compared to the Xbox Series X and PS5 in particular, right? Those have been out for 3 years now, so porting those games that are launching on that back to Switch, good luck, even compared to PS4 and Xbox One. So you had a lot of publishers probably not be confident about getting games on the system, and they waited too long to get on that console. So I think you're going to have way more people just ready up front off of the bat to get on Switch 2, right? It's not going to be one of those things where I feel like they're going to have to wait and have Switch prove itself, which we kind of had. Keep in mind, the Wii U was a colossal bomb. So I can understand some trepidation over how the Switch was going to perform. But now that I think publishers are going to be much more confident in Switch 2 right out of the gate, so they're going to be much more prepared to scale their games to Switch 2. And also Switch 2 is going to be much more modern, comparable to the PS5 and Series X. Now, that being said, is it going to match them in power? No, it's not even going to be remotely, not close, I will say, in raw processing power. But I think that they probably will have an easier job porting games to Switch 2 than they did to Switch 1 generationally compared, if that makes sense. I know it sounds weird, but yes. My answer to that is yes. I think Switch 2 will get much more third-party support than Switch 1. Will GTA 6 happen? Who knows? There's been some rumors that GTA 6 is going to happen on Switch 2. I have no idea. Hard to say. It would be awesome. I'd love to see it. But that one to me is a coin flip. Who knows? Okay, I think all channel members have gotten at least one question answered. I hit all the super chats. I can actually hit some free questions. I'll tell you, I did not think I was going to be able to. All right, let's hit some. Player slot available. Hi, Resident Pearl Abyss leaks person. Pearl Abyss is delaying Crimson Desert to Q2 2025 and Doke V to 2026. That's crazy. Doke V was revealed when? When did Doke V get revealed, man? That's crazy. That's a long time between announcement and release. Jesus, that was announced 4 years ago? Am I crazy? I feel like that's what I'm seeing it say. There's also a trailer from 2 years ago, but I'm seeing Doke V Rockstar official reveal trailer 4 years. Yeah, 4 years ago. And it's not until 2026? Good Lord. You guys know what I'm going to say. You all know. You know. Video games take too long to make. SD. Hi, Benji. Long time without a chat. I hope you are better. The worst is without question behind me. That I know for a fact. Because it's not one of those things where it's like I feel better the last couple days. I didn't want to jump too fast back into streams, but I've been feeling a lot better the last few weeks. So here we go. Let's make 2024 a far superior year to 2023, right? This is my question. Xbox sales are bad in every region. They're not good. Nope. Europe is almost non-existent. UK is down year over year every month, even with Black Friday and Starfield, and USA the same, while PS5 is exploding in sales everywhere, well, everywhere but the US. They had a really bad November. They had double-digit down in USA, but that was last year was crazy in November, according to Matt Piscatella. But they have like 400% increase in UK, etc. What's happening to Xbox? I know Game Pass, this and that, but there isn't any excuse for what's happening to Xbox and Call of Duty coming to Game Pass. I can bet a finger it will be nothing. Console sales thoughts. I mean, these are all great questions people are having about Xbox console sales. It's a hard question to answer at this point. I just wonder if I wonder if Microsoft has made their games so ubiquitous now, particularly with PC, that it's causing like far more cannibalization than I ever expected. Far more. You know, I've always been of the opinion that, yeah, PC would cannibalize some Xbox hardware sales, but not like to a massive degree. But I'm now heavily second guessing that thought process. I'm wondering if like everything PC day one, it just really has cannibalized their console. I don't know. I truly don't know the answer for this. I think it's a hard question to answer at this point because most of the things you would expect, right? You would expect something like traditionally, right? Traditionally, big exclusive games have been able to push hardware. So you would have thought something like Starfield could really push the hardware, but we saw how big Starfield was on PC. And you wonder, you know, if that was exclusive, would have pushed a lot more hardware sales. But the trade-off Microsoft's going for is maybe it would have pushed way more console sales, but we don't really care about that. We want to sell a lot more games or get a lot more engagement through Game Pass on PC. Basically, Microsoft's making the gamble that they can grow their overall ecosystem enough that it way offsets a decline in hardware sales, which to some degree we are seeing. They're seeing record levels of revenue per quarter, per year, and yeah, I think maybe their gambling's paying off, but it could result in that as a console specifically, it could become a lot harder to hit high sales numbers for Xbox. Could. But we'll have to see. It's hard to say. The Zombie Plus, sup Benji boy, how you doing? Better, still not perfect, but better. Do you think PS as a brand reached the Nintendo level of selling just because it's named PlayStation? In a year where they only have Spidey, it keeps improving. I mean, yeah, they're in sales, while Xbox having like a first-party game per quarter is doing literally nothing. Game Pass is amazing, but at the detriment of consoles, I feel they are losing customers every time more and more. So we kind of went into the Xbox hardware part already. In regards to PlayStation sales, yeah, their brand is just so powerful. Right? The PlayStation brand is just incredibly powerful. That's not to say that PlayStation hasn't released also some awesome games this generation. They absolutely have. God of War Ragnarok's amazing. Spider-Man 2's amazing. Horizon, I thought, was amazing. They've released some great games. But their brand power is just insane. Yeah. PlayStation's brand power is insane. And it really is helping them. There's no doubt about it. Logan Hardy. Oh my God, he is back. Really felt missing something in daily routine without your live chat. Seriously, happy you are back. Well, Logan, thank you so much. You know, part of the thing that keeps bringing me back whenever I go through these episodes is people messaging me or writing on Twitter and being like, dude, I miss the live chat. And I really undervalue how much the chat means to some of you guys, you know? I said it earlier, sometimes I feel a little weird about my chat. I get why people love, you know, podcasts whenever you've seen like a lot of debate between the hosts and stuff like that. But I'm continuously surprised how many people are willing to just watch me talk for an hour. Thank you so much, Logan. Cameron, updated thoughts on Sony hitting that 25 million goal, yay or nay? Nope, they're not. Unless December's shocking. But as of now, no. I think U.S. sales are not where they need to be. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong, guys. But as of now, I'm saying no. Post up, will you talk about the NPD? Yes, we did. If anyone has any more questions about it, of course, we'll go more into that. But we are getting close. I'm going for 10 more minutes and then I'm leaving. 10 minutes and I'm out. So I gotta get ready for work. Timmer, great to see you, Timmer. Hope you're doing well, Benji. No question today. Doing pretty good, buddy. Happy to be back. Michael Yu, I don't think Series consoles will outsell Xbox One worldwide. That's becoming more questionable. Early this generation, it looked very likely, and now it's starting to be like, ooh. My question is, do you know if the Xbox division is making more or less money 3 years into its generation versus Xbox One's first 3 years? I have to be careful always when I talk about Xbox's business because unlike PlayStation, I occasionally talk to people at Xbox about their business. Which I'll just say I don't at PlayStation. I I talk to devs at PlayStation, but like I don't talk to, you know, Herman Holst or Jim Ryan. That's not necessarily true on the Xbox side. I do talk to people at Xbox occasionally. So what I can say about Xbox, okay, all I can say about Xbox is what I said just a little bit ago, and that is that, you know, Xbox is making the gamble that, you know, if they do make some choices that will cannibalize parts of their business, and they're aware that some of those decisions could cannibalize parts of their business, the strategy, again, I'm not going to go super into detail here, but you guys can see this strategy yourselves. Microsoft's making a gamble that I'm not saying that they don't care about console, not at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. They want to sell a bunch of consoles, but I'm saying their goal with Xbox gaming and Microsoft gaming is to go far beyond just being tied to a console. So they're making the gamble that if some decisions cannibalize potentially some console sales, they can offset that through other means. Whether that's the right decisions or the wrong decisions, time will tell, right? But I can't go into specifics because unlike some stuff where I like theorize about parts of the business, with Xbox, I kind of know a little bit more about their business. Alex Bailey, welcome back, Benji. What's up, Alex? Great to see you, Alex. Saleh Al-Yusuf, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. If not, I apologize. How are you feeling, Benji? It's been a long time better. The worst is behind me. It was a very dark year for me. But I've made some big lifestyle pivots that have helped. Because when I was in a bad spot, I'll be honest, I was making some really poor decisions to try and cope and deal with it. And I've made some good decisions to help right myself, and I feel like I'm headed in the right way, but we'll see. I hope you're doing well too, Al Yusuf. I hope you're doing really great. El Nini, hello, Benji. Hello. Alex Bailey is also asking, did I get a chance to check out Lego Fortnite? If so, thoughts. I apologize, Alex. I have not. As popular as Fortnite is, I've just never been able to really get into Fortnite. And I know it has all sorts of different modes and different things to mess with now. But I have not gotten a chance to check it out. Maybe I will at some point, but I've been, you know, so busy with some other games and stuff, I haven't gotten a chance to check it out. But it's doing huge numbers. Kind of says, glad you're back. Your health comes before us. Just stream when you can. Well, I'm going to try and be a lot more consistent. I feel like I'm back to a good enough spot that I can be consistent without sacrificing my mental health. The reason I didn't stream for a while, like as you guys know, I was not in a position to stream. That's just the truth. I couldn't have done it. But I think I'm there. I think I'm there. Annoyingly unknowable. I would say that you just don't understand how sales work. And I apologize, I always try and be nice here, but you say price drops, not rough, 3-year-old hardware, LOL. So in the third year, consoles should not be declining. So I would say you just don't, and I'm not trying to be mean, right? We all know different things about different stuff, and I don't claim to be a sales expert, but traditionally a console should not be declining in the third year. That's just the truth of the matter. Historically, consoles don't decline in third years. For the most part, not saying there's exceptions, but in general, they don't. And, unit sales were not enough to overcome price drops. So, you know, it is what it is. Sounds PB7, good to see you again. What do you make of the Dragon's Dogma 2 release date? And any metrics to indicate how big of a release it will be compared to the first one? And did you like the gameplay shown? You know, it's hard to say on Dragon's Dogma 2. It's hard to say. This to me is a total wild card game. Dragon's Dogma 2 is one of those games I could honestly see selling very well, or I could see kind of bombing, which sounds weird because typically Capcom is on such a roll right now, it's hard to predict a bomb from Capcom. But I don't know. Like, the buzz around Dragon's Dogma 2 just does not feel as high as it has for other recent Capcom games, whether those are Monster Hunter games or Resident Evil games, which shouldn't be a huge shock. Dragon's Dogma is not the same size franchise as those other two, but I just don't feel the buzz like I did off of some of these other Capcom games. So I have no idea. I'm not saying that Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to underperform. I literally, I was just talking about this yesterday to someone, and I was like, of any game next year, Dragon's Dogma 2 to me feels like almost a complete coin flip. I have literally no idea how this game's going to do. No clue. If you came out and told me that next year Dragon's Dogma 2 sells 5-6 million copies, which I think would be an incredible result for that game, I'd be like, yeah, I could see it happening. If RPG fans end up latching onto it and loving it, or if you came out and told me, hey, Dragon's Dogma 2 super underperforms and mixed expectations, I could kind of also see it. I have no idea. No idea. I'm incredibly excited for Dragon's Dogma 2. I love the first game. I have no idea how Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to perform. Seems like such a wild card to me. El Nini, is the PS5 Pro coming out next year? Yes. That's not from me. I don't have sources on that, but both Jeff Grubb and Tom Henderson are both reporting that it is next year. So, yeah. Samuel Tolbert, great to see you, good friend of mine. What is up, Samuel? Benji, good to see you streaming today. It's good to be back, buddy. With The Last of Us Online officially canceled, what do you want to see from PlayStation Next in 2024? They got to have something big. They have to. They can't have a whole year without like anything big. I know there's, again, and we're only talking first party. Some people are going to counter that and be like, Rebirth, Rise of the Ronin. I'm not saying they don't have exclusives. We're talking specifically first party games. They got to have something, man. They got to have a big first-party game, like a big one. I don't mean something small. Hopefully it's Wolverine. There's been some rumblings that Wolverine was targeting 2024. I really hope that that's true. I don't know if it's not Wolverine. Hopefully Death Stranding 2, but I kind of feel like Death Stranding 2 is 2025. It's hard to say, man. It's hard to say, but they need something big. They do. They really need something big. Even with as well as PS5 selling, they need something big. You kind of can't go a whole year without a really big first-party game. We already saw how much that hurt Xbox, right? Xbox had that year where they had, like, wasn't that 2022? Where they had some really, like, cool little stuff like Pentiment and stuff, but we saw how much that really hurt their momentum, and you got to have at least one really, really big tentpole game. Kenneth says, being alone is great because you are your true best friend. Well, I am definitely not my best friend. I might be my greatest enemy. That's why it doesn't bother me too much whenever like people are mean online. Like some people get super triggered by like people being mean to them online, but it doesn't do much to me because I'm like, bruh, I already hate myself, right? We are not in disagreement on this. Blazing Flame. Someone asked Benji what he thinks of E3 ending forever and if it's a good or bad thing in the industry. Well, it's a bummer. As somebody that grew up, loving E3, it was like literally just my freaking favorite time. I would always have friends over that were other gamers. We would all, just be hyped for like a week straight or however many days it was, right? That they were doing it. It's over time. It's changed, but, we'd pile up in my house. We'd watch this stuff. We'd be so stoked talking about it all. And even after, I got older and I was, moved out on my own and everything like that, it was still just such an exciting time of the year. It's a shame, it kind of felt inevitable even before COVID. It always felt sort of inevitable the last, 5-6 years or whatever that it was headed in this direction. But it's sad. It's sad. Do I think it's a good or bad thing in the industry? I think the biggest hurt from not having E3 is going to be felt more by industry people than gaming fans, because you're still going to get lots of announcements. You're still going to get summer shows. You're still going to get Game Awards reveals and all that stuff. I think the people that might be most affected by this are developers and journalists that were there and used it as a way of meeting up with each other, of making contacts, of making friendships, of potentially finding new career paths and things like that. I think that's where the biggest blow will be felt. And I guess the hope for those people would be that, Summer Game Fest and Game Awards and things like that can somewhat replace what E3 did. But we'll have to see. Danger Man is saying that the Kepler person doesn't. I think he's saying they don't know about AMD leaks. I don't know. I think that was the person with the Xbox leak. I don't know. Like I said, all I know is people saying that Kepler person's reliable, but I don't know. Portal player, new Xbox in 2026 would be so weird. That's too soon. It is. Okay, I'm going to read this username. Okay, here we go. Question from Booty Connoisseur. That is correct. Booty Connoisseur. Benji, I'd love for devs to go back to campaigns and multiplayer. Basically a campaign and multiplayer on the side with a few map packs or something like Call of Duty back in the day. Why does everything need to be live service? I agree with that to a degree. I think that some of these companies should maybe offer that. Listen, like I said, every publisher should be experiencing with some live service. I'm not against the idea of Sony trying to make some live service games or Ubisoft trying to make some live service games, because if you get by some miracle, because there's a reason I'm using the word miracle, to all publishers, your odds are so low of that happening, it's astronomical. But in the very incredibly minute chance that you do get the next Fortnite or the next Apex Legends or whatever, you're going to make so much money off of it. So I understand doing some experimentation on it. But someone like Naughty Dog, I agree. They should, if they want to do multiplayer, just make Factions 2 or whatever you're going to call it as part of The Last of Us Part 3. Don't intend on it being any sort of live service mode. Just make a nice, solid, cool little multiplayer mode on the side for the people that do enjoy it. And if it finds some success, then yeah, occasionally release, like you said, a map pack for it or something like that. Don't be all in on we have to every month have new content updates and new blah, 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 blah. There's some games that do need to exist like that. But I think there's some games like The Last of Us universe where you can just make a multiplayer mode for it, So I would say I agree to it. I agree to a degree, Booty Connoisseur. Danger Man. The big question is why live service games take more effort with less actual maps in them, even if Battlefield Hardline had freaking maps released for it. Part of it is just, games are getting harder and harder to make, unfortunately. Same reason we're seeing, games take so long to come out now. Kenneth says, Bungie's going the way of the dodo, extinct. Well, I'm not going to go that aggressive on Bungie yet, but they're definitely in trouble. Which is sad to see because Bungie's a studio that I've loved for so long. I was, a giant fan of their Halo games back in the day, of course. Huge fan of Destiny 1. I put, something like over 1,000 hours into Destiny 1 or whatever. Played Destiny 2 religiously up to the Beyond Light expansion, but then I fell off, and I do feel like they've made a lot of choices that is potentially hurting them. Yeah, they are definitely in a troubled spot. That can't be denied. Which is a shame to see. Hopefully they can turn things around. Just a couple more and then I have to go. Like maybe actually just one or two more. I'm losing track of time. I actually have to. So let me see. Let me scroll down. Make sure there was no super chats or channel member questions late that I missed. Ross Wilson. This is true. We never talked about GTA. In terms of the trailer. Thoughts on the Grand Theft Auto trailer in general and its insane amount of views. I thought it was an incredible trailer. Now, it's just a teaser, so you have to keep in mind when I say an incredible trailer, I mean just like for a teaser, for establishing the tone, for the way the visuals looked. I thought it was amazing. Obviously, if this was like the launch trailer, or like the game comes out in 2 months and this is still all we've seen, I might be a little bit more like critical of it, right? Like, where's the gameplay? Where's the right? But for an initial first teaser, hey, here's the concept, here's the scope, here's like just your very first tease of this world that we're building. I thought it was excellent. amazing music choice. It went perfectly with the trailer. Vibe seems fantastic. I'm already attached to the protagonists, and I barely know anything about them. And I was someone, I'll be honest, when the rumors first came out that it was going to be a Bonnie and Clyde sort of thing, that it was going to be a couple, I actually was I wasn't convinced. I think I even talked about in my Discord. I was like, I don't know if I like this idea or not. But with that trailer, even the slight tease and the concept art, they've actually already sold me on the concept. So insane. Trailer views are insane. It'll be the biggest entertainment launch of all time, not just the biggest video game launch, but the biggest entertainment launch of all time in terms of revenue. Bigger than any book, bigger than any movie, bigger than any video game. It'll be the biggest launch in the history of entertainment. All right, I think we're going. Live Supremacy, what's up? You're saying what's up, and I say what's up. All right, I apologize to all the free questions I could not get to today. Highlander has a something right at the end for a channel member. Do you think someone will acquire Ubisoft now they have cloud rights for ABK? With Xbox being down, Microsoft can take the hit. With Sony, not so much. I kind of feel like acquisitions are slowing down a bit. But we'll see. I don't know. Ubisoft has been someone I've predicted will get acquired sometime in the next few years for a while. But I don't know. It feels like acquisition season has somewhat sputtered out recently. So we'll see. We'll see. I still think of all the publishers with like a big name that we know, Ubisoft's probably the most likely to be acquired simply because of fairly low market cap considering the IPs they own and the amount of talent they have. So possibly, but it's hard to say. Hard to say. And then Split End, last thing for Split End, because I got to go to work, has re-upped his channel membership for 8 months. Thank you so much, buddy. Last thing, how hard did you scream during Old Gods of Asgard at the Game Awards? I went nuts in my publications video chat. It was my favorite part of the show. It was my favorite part of the entire show. Of course, again, take everything I say about Alan Wake and Remedy with a huge grain of salt, everyone. But it was my favorite part. I loved seeing Sam Lake up there. I loved seeing Sam Lake, getting to do the dance. There's a video that surfaced a little bit back about how back when Quantum Break and stuff was releasing, his goal was to have a musical as part of a game at some point. He got to live that dream. He got to perform that dream. He got to get, Alan Wake 2 get all these awards for something he'd wanted to make for so long. So for Alan Wake fans, it was a moment of pure bliss and joy seeing something like this finally happen. So listen, whether Alan Wake 2 ends up being a financial success or not, to me, it's almost a who cares at this point. I'd love for it to be because I want Remedy and Alan Wake to have all the success. But for me, it's just a miracle this game was ever even made. I truly had given up hope of any sort of sequel ever for this game. So at this point, to me, anything past just the game existing is gravy because I thought I'd never get it. All right, everyone, I got to go. Thank you for still supporting me despite me being a complete lunatic and head case. Thank you for all the support in today's chat. It was actually crazy, the amount of super chats. Thank you for everything. I apologize I was gone for so long. I'm going to try to commit to being better in 2024. I'm sorry that I fell off the rails this year. I really apologize. So thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for all the support. You're all amazing. Hopefully I see you guys next week. I'm going to try and commit to being back next week. I think next week is Christmas week, right? I don't even know. Everything's messed up. All right. Love you guys. Bye. Bye, 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 bye. I got to go to work. Thank you.